Hello and welcome to Let's Play Black Geyser, Couriers of Darkness, with me, Bring It On. Black Geyser was developed by Great Ocean Technologies and published by Vicarious Publishing, with a release date of March 17th, 2022. It has been in early access since August 26, 2021. Great date, by the way. I have played some of that early access here on the channel, so I'm not going to this game completely blind, like I usually like to do for games. It is an isometric CRPG, using real-time with pause combat. It takes place in the world of Urangol, which is unique to this setting. Going forward, the rest of this episode will be nothing but character creation, where I go through the character creator, read everything, while also making my character that I plan on taking into the game. Let's go ahead and start a new game. There are some pre-generated characters, if that's your thing. It's not mine, so I'm going to go ahead and create new. Alright, race and sex. You have 2 sexes to choose from, male and female, and 5 races. I'm going to start with Rillo, work my way up, because I do plan on playing a human. Alright, so the Rillo. Travelers, traders, and alchemists from the Eastern Empires. The Rillo are a child race of a powerful genie called Ellen Water. Their homeland is shrouded in mystery, so few outside the Rillo themselves know much about them. What is known is that they are seekers of pleasure and experience, consummate traders, and nomadic caravaneers. Rillo are a large, physically imposing race, who bear a passing resemblance to elephants. They eschew religion and favor displays of wealth, and have a natural talent for brewing and drying. So the Rillo cannot be Rangers, Templars, or Winter Mages. They get +2 to Physique, -2 to Dexterity, +3 to Brewing and Drying, +20% resistance to Heat, -20% to Cold, and -10% to Illusion and Manipulation. Alright, the Feldagug. The Feldagug were once elven tribes who lived close to the north. The demigod Dargomir grew jealous over the love the elves showed for Talindia, and imprisoned a number of elven tribes in the snowy cold north. He would forge his own race and command them as he saw fit. But the elves were first a creation of the God King and the Green Goddess, and as they changed to survive the north, they also realized the strength they would need to be free. Dargomir eventually realized his mistake, and allowed his creations to rule themselves, and commanded them to form 6 tribes. Drawing from the strength granted by their cold imprisonment and their god and goddess, they rebelled against their demigod. Feldagug are similar to elves but much paler. They are resistant to a hard environment, and most would consider unlivable. They are rarely seen outside of their snowy northern homelands, and most of their races are very distrustful of them. The Feldagug cannot be Shamans or Templars. They get +1 to Intelligence, and -1 to Charisma and Physique, and +1 to Supernatural. They get a 30% resistance to Cold, +10% to Arousal, +5% to Depressive, and -10% to Pulse and Blow. Alright, the Elves. As the tribes of men felt aggrieved and the world was spoiled, the Green Goddess wept. As the King God allowed Talindia to select a few tribes of man, those least affected by greed, to be her vassals in Isilmerald, or Isilmerald. Talindia chose 11 tribes of man to claim as her own. Those 11 tribes were come to be known as Elves as time passed. Elves share a special connection with nature, feeling an inherent connection to all natural things. The generations apart from men have changed them physically. Their narrow frames allow them to move faster and quieter than men. Their ears grew pointed to better pick out distant or small sounds. The Elves tend to be xenophobic and haughty towards the other races, due to their chosen status imparted by Talindia. So just like the Feldagug, they cannot be Shamans or Templars. You get +1 to Dexterity, -2 to Physique, +15% damage with bows and arrows, +10% damage with weapons made of wood, +25% resistance to Depressive, +15% to Illusion and Manipulation, and -15% Pulse and Blow. Alright, the Dwarves. The Devil God Hrothgar was angry over the creation of the Elves and the threat they represented to his plans to throw the world into darkness. He sent an incubus to impregnate elven women in an effort to steal the essence that lies within their wombs. The elven mothers despaired, but the Green Goddess told her daughters to seek the first waters of Urangol. They did so, but were trapped in a stone cavern when Hrothgar sent demons to destroy them. The children survived the attack, but the mothers died. Men in the mountains found the babes and raised them as their own, but the elven progeny were stunted and hairy. The children, now known as dwarves, grew and prospered, showing the love of nature from their elven parents, who began to exhibit a preference for the depths of the world. Dwarves are very materialistic. They have a strong connection to clan and family. They are stout and powerfully built, well suited to exploiting the natural tunnels that form deep in the ground. So dwarves can't be a spellcaster of any kind. They can't be necromancers, winter mages, spellweavers, convokers, druids, templars, or rangers. They can wield war clubs and hammers regardless of class. They get +1 to physique, -2 to charisma, and -1 to supernatural. They have a 25% resistance to poison and acid, +20% to depressive, +15% to pulse and blow. They get a +12% damage bonus with war clubs and hammers and battle axes, and +9% damage with slings and fustaballs. Alright, humans were once a united tribe that roamed Nirengol for generations. The dark goddess of greed, Zornilsa, infected their hearts slowly with greed, avarice, and jealousy. The single tribe of man became many as they turned on one another. They warred for resources and land, forgetting their roots. Their bonds were broken, and their old alliances splintered. Humans come in many different shapes and colors, and can be found all over Nirengol. They are natural farmers, working the land as an artist works clay. Human versatility means they can fill virtually any role, as demonstrated here. Humans can be any class, and they'll have a -1 maximum supernatural. Alright, I'm going to start with Cleric and just go down alphabetically.
The light guides me in all things.
So clerics are priests of faith who have taken up arms to better serve their god. When not as combat-oriented as a Templar, they can serve in other ways. Their faith to a deity allows them to wield magical powers that can help their team or hurt their foes. Now, they are first and foremost servants to their gods, and they harness that faith for the good of their religion. So they cannot wear heavy armor, they can wear robes, light armor, or medium armor, and they can wield slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, small blades, and rods and staves. They get +2 to focus, a +1 to brewing and drying. They get scaling resistance to arousal, and illusion and manipulation. And they also get scaling healing done by spells. Alright, the Convoker. The Convoker eschews most other magical pursuits, in favor of the summoning capabilities of each spell class. Convokers are versatile masters of adaptation. Instead of focusing on the icy grasp of a winter mage, or the dark energies of a necromancer, Convokers call upon a wide range of creatures to suit any needed task. But don't mistake their versatility as pacifism. The summoning abilities they bring to bear can rain destruction on their enemies through claw, flame, or steel. So they can only wear robes by default. They can wear light armor if supernatural is greater than 2. And they can wield slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, rods and staves, and small blades. They get a +2 to focus, and a +3 to intelligence. They have scaling damage by summoned monsters, scaling health for summoned monsters, +3 to brewing and drying, +5 to learning and research, scaling increased damage dealt by summoned creatures. So these values are the same for the damage and health for the creatures. I don't know if this is supposed to be here twice. By the way, they also get scaling duration of summon spells. Druids, like rangers, are stewards of the wild. They use their faith in the wild gods to protect nature against the encroachments of man. They spend their days away from people so that they may stay better in tune with nature. Druids can call upon the powers of their deity to heal or bring the terrible and powerful forces of nature to call. They feel a kinship with rangers, but still prefer solitude. They can only wear robes by default. They can wear light armor if supernatural is greater than 1. They can wield slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, war clubs and hammers, rods and staves, and spears and halberds. They cannot cast unnatural spells, and they cannot wear armor or wield weapons made of metal. They get +1 focus, and +4 to brewing and drying. They have scaling damage to animated and restless undead, scaling resistance to arousal, illusion, and manipulation, scaling duration to spells, and scaling healing done by spells. Alright, fighters train to be ready for anything. They are a very versatile profession and are the most common of all martial professions. Fighters are proficient with all weapons and armor, making them a deadly and well-prepared combatant. They can wear any physical armor, they can wield any weapon. They get +2 to physique. They have scaling resistance to strain and pain, pulse and blow. They have scaling damage with two-handed weapons, scaling chance to taunt targets while holding a one-handed weapon, scaling damage with one-handed weapons, and +2 weapon skill points per level. Highlander. Highlanders are hardy and strong warriors. Their profession, originating in the harsh north, affords strong warriors tough enough to resist the elements. They prefer thick armor that doesn't restrict their movement, helps them blend into natural environments. While they pick up and use any weapon, they prefer the raw and crushing power of clubs and hammers. I can understand that. So they cannot wear heavy armor, and they can wield any weapon. +3 to physique. They have scaling damage with war clubs and hammers. A scaling chance to cause knockdown with war clubs and hammers. They have scaling resistance to heat, cold, poison and acid, and pulse and blow, and strain and pain. They get +1 weapon points. 1 weapon skill point per level.
I shall be your guide to the wilds.
Lost my rhythm there for a second. Necromancers are viewed by society in a negative light, and shunned due to their proximity to death. That said, necromancers understand that a dead body is just a vessel. They have learned to use death and its trappings as tools. They pursue great mysteries which others have shunned and deemed immoral. But necromancers are not evil. They're merely focused on the inherent powers of life and death, sometimes even more than their own existence. Because of this, powerful necromancers are an extremely rare sight. But the most powerful are said to have transcended death and can even create powerful undead servants. So can only wear robes by default, can wear light armor if supernatural is greater than 2, can wield the following weapons: slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, rods and staves, and small blades. They get +3 to focus, +2 to intelligence, +4 to brewing and drying, and learning and research. They have scaling damage dealt by summoned creatures, scaling increased health points for summoned creatures, and scaling damage dealt by damage over time effects. Rangers are warriors who feel most at home in the heart of the wild, and pledge to protect Yarongol from man and beast alike. They're sworn to preserve a balance between man and nature. They enforce this with their actions. Rangers are skilled in the use of any weapon, but excel with the bow. They also abhor the unnatural, and are trying to take down the undead and other aberrant creations of men. They cannot wear heavy armor, they can wield any weapon, and they gain spells at level 4. They get +2 physique, +1 dexterity, and +1 charisma. They have scaling damage to animated and restless undead, scaling damage to machineries, scaling damage with bows and arrows, and slings and fustaballs, and scaling resistance to strain and pain, and pulse and blow. Shamans are beings of faith who channel their power in an unusual manner. They attempt to connect with their deity on a spiritual level and can communicate with spirits and other servants of their god. Shamans have access to a kind of magic that is not easily understood by wizards or priests. They use an ancient magic and their ability to travel with their non-physical souls to further their communion with their god, hence to confuse more short-sighted magical practitioners. They can wear light armor, they can wear robes, and they can wield slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, and rods and staves. They get +3 to focus, +1 to intelligence, +3 to supernatural, +5 to brewing and drying, and +2 to learning and research. They get scaling damage with rods and staves, scaling damage to necromancers, scaling damage to restless undead, scaling resistance to illusion and manipulation, scaling duration to spells, and scaling increased health for summoned creatures. Spellweavers are the most common form of wizards in Yarongol. They're as varied as the world itself. Spellweavers focus on exploring as many of each magical discipline as possible. Thus, no two spellweavers are the same. All they share in common is an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Spellweavers are much too busy studying the arcane to bother with martial training, and as such, rely on their mastery of the eldritch magics to protect them. Oh yeah, before I forget, you can multi-class. There's no penalty to doing so except for it takes longer to level up. So you can choose up to 2 additional classes for your character, while a higher amount of experience is needed for advancing the character. Gains access to a wider range of skills and abilities, recommended for experienced players. So you can have 3 classes to multi-class into, but they can only be from separate schools. So each class is split into one of 4 schools. You have fighters, priests, wizards, and thieves, or rogues. So if you want to be a necromancer that wears heavy armor, you can. Or a rogue that wears heavy armor, really any combination of each one. There's no penalty for it except for experience, which is really neat. Alright, so the Spellweaver can only wear robes by default. They can wear light armor if supernatural is greater than 2, and they can wield slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, rods and staves, and small blades. They get +3 focus and intelligence, and +5 to brewing and drawing, and learning and research.
Keep your eye.
Alright, Swindlers are a master conmen. They focus less on outright burglary, and more manipulating the weak or greedy. Unlike thieves, Swindlers hide in plain sight. Because of this, they are better in open combat, while their plans and machinations unfold in the shadows. They can only wear light armor, they can wield bows and arrows, slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, small blades, and rods and staves. They get +1 to dexterity and focus, +2 to charisma and intelligence, +1 to brewing and drawing, and +5 to bargain and persuasion. They get scaling damage to throwing weapons and small blades. They also get scaling damage against sleeping, stunned, unconscious, pacified, charmed, poison, bleeding, wounded, and dissolving enemies. And +1 class skill per point. One class skill point per level. Templar. Templars are human warrior priests. The most devout of their kind, and only the most dedicated, can become a Templar. Sworn to a strict code of conduct, they train endlessly in combat, so that they might fight evil in whatever form it manifests. They are especially trained to hunt and dispatch the undead. They can wear any physical armor, they can wield any weapon, and they gain spells at level 4. They get 2 to physique, +1 to focus and charisma. They get scaling damage to animated and restless undead, scaling resistance to strain and pain, pulse and blow, arousal, and illusion and manipulation. Alright, the Thief. In a world infested with greed, the Thief has become much more common. Their skill set is diverse, and they can function as common footpads or royal spies. They prefer subterfuge and misdirection to open conflict. Their ability to steal or plant items, remain undetected, and create all manner of powders makes them a deadly and unpredictable foe, in or out of combat. They can only wear light armor, and they can wield bows and arrows, slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, small blades, and rods and staves. They get +2 to dexterity and focus, +3 to brewing and drawing, and +1 to bargain and persuasion. They get scaling damage against sleeping, stunned, unconscious, pacified, charmed targets, and scaling damage against poisoned, bleeding, wounded, and dissolving. They get +1 skill point, class skill point per level. This one always trips me up. Alright, the Winter Mage. There are wizards called Winter Mages, who seek the mastery of the harsh magics of the cold north. They have an extremely high resistance to cold, and can withstand temperatures that would kill mortal men. Because of this, they are uncomfortable in warmer climates, but some Winter Mages still travel to further their knowledge. Winter Mages need less sleep than other mortals, using a technique they developed known as cold sleep. Powerful Winter Mages can use their knowledge and magical skills to craft ice golems, which can serve as mighty guardians. They can only wear robes by default. They can wear light armor if supernatural is greater than 2. That seems to be the standard for all spellcasting classes, except for the Druid. The Druid can do it if he has 1 supernatural, or greater than 1. And they can wield slings and fustaballs, throwing weapons, rods and staves, and small blades. They get +3 to focus, +2 to intelligence, +3 to brewing and drawing, and +4 to learning and research. They have scaling resistance to arousal and cold, and scaling cold damage dealt. Alright, so I'll be playing a Templar, of course. Alright, our attributes. Physique. Physique displays a character's overall physical build and state. A character's value in physique modifies their damage dealt with physical attacks, their maximum health value, their ability to evade incoming attacks through blocking, and their carrying capacity. Dexterity. Dexterity displays a character's agility. A character's value in dexterity modifies their aim and accuracy value, and their chance to evade attacks through dodging and parrying attacks. Intelligence. Intelligence displays a character's ability to think, plan, and use logic in different situations. A character's value in intelligence modifies their efficiency with various spells and skills that depend on one's mental abilities to be performed. Focus. Focus displays a character's overall mental strength and resilience. A character's value and focus modifies their aim and accuracy value, their ability to evade incoming attacks through dodging and blocking, and reduces the chance of their actions being interrupted by incoming damage. Charisma. Charisma displays a character's natural aptitude to compel, attract, and influence others. Charisma modifies a character's bargain and persuasion skill, and various class skills. Supernatural. Supernatural displays a feature of characters that elevates them above ordinary creatures. The value of Supernatural increases a character's resistance values against various forms of damage, enables further special abilities for warriors and outlaws, and increases the number of elevated energy slots for wizards and priests. I do plan on making a sword and board tank, so physique is important because it'll give me more damage, gives me more health, and a higher chance to block. I'm going to max that out at 14. Focus is also important for the same reasons as physique, a higher chance to block, and also not be interrupted when I'm casting spells. 50 points into charisma as well, because they are essentially the paladin of this game. I think put 2 more points into focus and 1 more into charisma. Let's do that the other way around. In fact, let's do it like that. There we go. That looks good to me. Alright, skills and spells. So general, bargain and persuasion. Offers the ability to manipulate the characters of Erangel to do your bidding. Points in this skill will help you reach favorable prices with vendors, and unlocks more options and dialogues. Each point of charisma increases this skill by 1.5%. Each point of intelligence increases this skill by 0.5%. Each point of bargain and persuasion increases this skill by 4%. So I'm going to put this point into bargain and persuasion. We also have learning and research. Offers the ability to read various texts, scrolls, and recipes. Scrolls can then be cast or recorded into spellbooks, or recipes can be learned and added to the compendium. Each point of intelligence increases his ability by 1.5%, of focus by 0.5%, and each point of the skill itself increases it by 4%. Alright, brewing and drying. Offers the ability to craft potions and powders from various ingredients collected throughout Erangel. Potions can mostly be consumed for a set of positive effects or healing, while powders can be thrown at or planted on enemies for a set of negative effects or damage. Crafting potions and powders from advanced ingredients or at higher heat levels will require investing some points into the skill. Intelligence increases it by 1%, each point of dexterity by 0.5%, each point of the skill itself by 4%. So class specific, these are, as it says, specific to the class. So if I had a wizard class, these would be different. If you multi-class, you get access to all of them. So if I were to be a warrior, thief, mage, multi-class, I'd have 3 sets of these class-specific skills to choose from. So for the Templar, we have Seasoned Warrior. Enables additional dialogue choices themed around warriors. Each point of charisma increases this by 1.5%, each point of physique increases it by 0.5%, and each point of the skill itself by 4%. Outdoor Survival. The character becomes more capable at fending for themselves and their allies in the wilderness. Increases health regained while resting at outdoors locations for all party members. Multiple characters can take this skill. Physique increases it by 1.5%, focus by 0.5%, and the skill itself by 4%. Command Company. Offers the ability to become the leader of the party. The commander of the group can designate various battlefield tactics to follow, which results in group-wide bonuses. New tactics become available as the leader advances. The bonuses gained remain active until another tactic is selected, or the group gathers to rest. The group can only have one commander at a time. Physique increases the skill by 1%, charisma by 1%, and the skill itself by 4%. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the point into that. Alright, Force Locks and Doors. Offers the ability to open locked containers and doors the harsh way. This rather brutish way of opening them requires far less finesse than a lockpick, and is prone to making a noise that might attract unwanted attention from the surroundings. More effective against low-level locks, forcing a lock successfully offers a small amount of experience. Each point of physique increases it by 2.5%, dexterity by 1%, the skill itself by 2%. Alright, then you select your weapon skill. So you have bows and arrows. Finds a character's aptitude with bows and arrows. Bows and arrows increases the user's aim and accuracy with them. Short bows are fast weapons, while long bows are average speed. Arrows mostly deal stabbing damage. Each point of the skill increases it by 6.6%. Slings and Fustables. Finds a character's aptitude with slings and fustables. Slings and fustables increases the user's aim and accuracy with them. Slings are very fast weapons, while fustables are fast. Bullets mostly deal pulse and blow damage. Increases it by 6.6%. So most of these say the same thing. Let me just confirm all the percentages are the same. I cut down on my reading a little bit if I have to. I say throwing weapons are very fast, dealing mostly slash and stabbing damage. War clubs and hammers. Maces are average speed weapons, while warhammers and morning stars are slow. They mostly deal pulse and blow and stabbing damage. And I'm going to be taking war clubs and hammers here, using a one-handed hammer and a shield for this build. Large blades. Longswords are average speed weapons, while greatswords are very slow. Large blades deal mostly slash damage, alongside a bit of pulse and blow. Small blades. Daggers are very fast weapons, dealing mostly stabbing damage, while short swords are fast and deal mostly slashing damage. Battle axes. Axes are fast weapons, dealing mostly slash damage, alongside a bit of pulse and blow. Spears and halberds. Spears are slow weapons, dealing mostly stabbing damage, while halberds are very slow, dealing mostly slashing. Rods and staves. Staves are average speed weapons, dealing mostly pulse and blow damage. And that's it. Unarmed. Unarmed blows are considered as very fast attacks. Unarmed attacks deal pulse and blow damage. Alright, so here's our resistances. We have 7% to pulse and blow. Decreases damage taken from pulse and blow attacks. Decreases the duration of brittle, concussion, and disarm status effects. Increases the chance of resisting knockdown, concussion, and disarm status effects. Strain and pain. Decreases the duration of throbbing, stun, immobilized, slow, itching, and weakened. Increases the chance of resisting stun, immobilized, slow, itching, and weakened. Stabbing. Decreases damage from stabbing attacks. Decreases the duration of exposed and wounded status effects. Increases the chance of resisting wounded. Slashing. Increases damage taken from bleeding status effects and slashing attacks. Decreases the duration of softened status effects. Increases the chance of resisting softened and bleeding. Poison and acid. Decreases damage taken from poisoned and dissolving effects and poison and acid attacks. Decreases the duration of pervious and disease status effects. And increases the chance of resisting poisoned, dissolving, and diseased. Heat. Decreases damage taken from burning status effects and heat attacks. Decreases the duration of toasting and burning. Increases the chance of resisting burning. Cold. Decreases damage taken from cold attacks. Decreases the duration of freezing and frozen. And increases the chance of resisting frozen. Depressive. Decreases the duration of pacified, exhausted, and drowsy. Increases the chance of resisting pacified, unconscious, exhausted, and sleep. Arousal. Decreases the duration of nervous, distracted, and panicking. Increases the chance of resisting distracted and panicking. Then illusion and manipulation. Decreases the duration of perplexed, blind, silence, charm, attraction, and confusion. Increases the chance of resisting blind, silence, charm, attraction, and confusion. So there are a ton of status effects you have to worry about. That's what I gathered from all of that. Alright, the appearance. So here's all the portraits. Guess I'll go with that one. Wish more games incorporated fully enclosed helmet portraits. It makes it easier to roleplay. Alright, hairstyles. I guess I will select that and that. My name will be Donald. Barely hear that.
Yeah.
What? Where's the will? Yes. I await your instructions.
Yes.
Speak your mind. I'm listening.
Alright, I'm gonna go with Gallant. If we have difficulties here, story, you do not have any experience with role-playing games. Classic, you have some experience with role-playing games. Veteran, you have a lot of experience with role-playing games. And Courier, you want some real challenge. I'm gonna go with Veteran, because I do have a lot of experience with role-playing games, and I think I can handle it. Alright, so here's our character. Donald, human, male, immortal, and I'm a Templar. 7% pulse and blow resistance, 8% strain and pain, 10% arousal, 5% illusion manipulation, 14 physique, 4 dexterity, 4 intelligence, 10 focus, 13 charisma, 0 supernatural, 1 to bargain and persuasion, 1 to brewing and drying, 0 to learning and research, 2 to command company, 1 to force locks and doors, and then all my weapon skills are in 4 clubs and hammers. And that's it. This is the character we're going to take into the game in the next episode, but for now, this is where I'm going to end it. Actually, I don't really like that portrait now that I see it a little bit bigger. Let's go back. Yeah, that one looks a lot better. Alright. So here's my character, the one I'm going to be taking into the game in the next episode. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.